any sort of technical issues and use the Q&A pod if you have questions for the presenters. So we're now going to begin our second presentation of the day, brand your course, Bridging the Gap from Textbook to Classroom.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Dawn, and my office mate, but we are in two different states currently. Catanach is joining us. And Kat, you want to take it away?
Sure. Gonna go to the next slide.
Yep, sorry.
Okay, well, so let me do a little bit more of a formal introduction. I'm Katherine Dunn in Catanach. I'm an assistant teaching professor at Penn State Berks, and I am the program chair for the organizational leadership program. I mostly teach speech with my colleague Dawn, and I also teach PR and organizational communication and a few other courses. Dawn Pfeifer Reitz, who is an amazing, inspirational person and my office mate. She's been teaching about 12 years. She's also an assistant teaching professor. She's our 100A coordinator, and she is also in our program of communication arts and sciences. And I think, and she's really at the inspiration for a lot of what we do in our communications course, and I ride along and have fun. So we create together. Anyhow, Dawn, you're up.
All right, fantastic. Thank you, Kat, for that. So I'm excited to have everybody joining us today, and appreciate our flexibility and be able to roll with this from originally presenting in June to joining us today. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of background to set the stage for how we got to where we are today. I started at Penn State Berks in August of 2015, and one of the reasons why I made the switch from my prior institution was because I was supported in my interest, my digital pedagogy interest, and the desire that I had to explore different modalities, hybrid. Well, back in the day, it was just hybrid and blended, right? Now it's all sorts of different modalities in our current state. But because I was supported in that, I just took an opportunity to really dig into these experiences. When I came to Penn State, and currently our colleagues that teach CAS 100 on our campus, we use a OER, an open educational resource called the Public Speaking Project. And this was already in place when I got there. It is a very good resource, but for many reasons, it does have some limitations for us, which we could explore in another session maybe someday. But because of my interests, I started exploring some things that were local to our campus, like the Berks e-Learning Academy, which then became a very prescribed journey for me into taking my course and from a traditional brick and mortar face-to-face to a blended hybrid perspective. And I actually have made that into a flipped classroom. So as this evolved and through our office conversations, Kat and I decided that we wanted to take advantage of all of the opportunities that our CLT staff, our wonderful, wonderful CLT staff provided on our campus, and then different TLT experiences that we've had throughout the university over the last few years. And we've done a lot of things to integrate the technology piece and then the branding into our CAS 100 courses.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about how the TLT process worked and how we did what we did. Dawn, you want to show the video first?
Sure. So this video is a really, really rough mashup. All right. I don't have video editing skills, so just keep that in mind as you're watching it. But this will give you an idea of some of the things that we did through our TLI grant.
This speech is worth 50 points. There are 4 worksheets that will help prepare you for submitting your final outline. In order to be a truly effective speaker or writer, Aristotle believed that you needed to create a persuasive message by using 3 persuasive appeals. The first one would be ethos. This is the art of creating persuasion through your credibility and through your character. Believing that you are an authentic, honest, trustworthy person is key to being persuasive. We tend to believe people. The second motivational appeal described by Aristotle is pathos. which refers to appealing to the audience's emotions, values, and beliefs. Word choice affects the audience's emotions.
Welcome to the unit on delivery. In this video, you will learn about the different methods of delivery.
Today, you will learn about the impact proper delivery choices will have on your speech. You will learn the 3 types of delivery modes to choose from.
Welcome to this video on nonverbal or...
All right. Kat?
Yep. So that gives you some idea of how the videos kind of flowed. We did, you know, the finger, the touch thing that you see there, all very consistent and very consistent in tone. But let me talk a little bit about how we got to this point. We applied for a set of TLI grants to produce these, and we wrote scripts. We videotaped, we got permission and videotaped students and all of that. And one of the process for us, as Dawn said, you know, we had this online textbook, and we really wanted to enhance that, and we wanted to give in a flipped classroom. We needed something a little bit more lush and a little bit more specific to what our philosophy and and to be a little bit more dynamic with these videos so that they would connect with the students. So this was really to supplement the textbook. And while we were doing it, we were very conscious about tone. We wanted to brand it specifically to our CAS program, or to our 100As. And we also envisioned that our faculty would use this, that these would be resources for either adjuncts coming into the program teaching, or for our current faculty if they needed, you know, something that they could pluck and put into their informative speech module, or in their persuasive speech module, or if they wanted to do something a little bit more dynamic on delivery. I'm good there, I think. Okay, so next, so after we did these set of videos and we showed them in our classroom for a semester, we of course did our due diligence and surveyed them, and we had 9 sections between the 2 of us that we surveyed. It's about 800 students. So for the purpose of this presentation, we took the data and kind of like smooshed it together into some pie charts and bar charts just to make this presentation go a little faster. So some of the questions that we asked were about imagery, availability 24/7, length of the videos, did they replay them, and the quintessential age-old book versus video conversation. Also, we asked about that. So the first slide that we're going to take a look at is, did the videos make my learning easier? And overwhelmingly, it did. They enjoyed the flip approach for learning. They enjoyed contributing. They thought the videos definitely contributed to their learning, and they really thought that it was easier than the textbook. And that was good news for us. Not to say that we don't want them to read. We do want them to read, but we thought that the content that we had provided was an excellent supplement, and so they agreed with us overwhelmingly. We had a question about length of video, and about 66% said that they thought the length was perfect, although 30% thought that we were just a little too long-winded. And the videos actually ranged from about 3 minutes to about 9, I think, is probably my longest one. And you know, these students could watch it. They could watch it over, and I'm going to get into that in the next slide. But that's just what their feedback was. Too mostly perfect in length. The next slide, we talk about whether you can press play or see or hear the professor in the video. So first of all, we asked, did you watch the video? And they said, about 65% said yes. A little over 65% said that they had watched the video. And then about 50% said that they really liked having the Berks faculty in the video, that it wasn't somebody else's canned stuff out from YouTube or the publisher, that they liked hearing our voices and they liked seeing Dawn. And so that was great.
Dawn and you.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. And so did they stop the video? Did they replay it? Did they go back to it? About 30% said that they did. A little over 30%, I guess. It's like 40%. Said that they liked playing the video, that they paused it, and that about 60% said that they liked the fact that they could go back and rewind it and play it again. So that was great. That was good news to us too. Effective use of images inside of the video, and I have to absolutely throw some serious kudos to our TLT people. They are brilliant. Marianne Mengel, and we had this stellar intern, Amanda, who pulled these together. And so the imagery was really great. And so as you can see, the imagery was key to the students' understanding. And it just made it so much better. There's not much more to say about it than that they really felt that the visuals helped understand what was going on. The imagery used, we asked them about whether it kept them on focus, whether they thought it was distracting. And again, 60% said that they really thought that it kept them focused. And we also cherry picked some comments out of, we had some open-end questions, and can you put them all up, Dawn?
Sure.
Thanks. So, so what's interesting here was there was some flexibility that came along with this, that they could look at it any time. They definitely paid more attention. They hope more classes started to do this. But many of them thought that the length of time, was a little long. And out of all the feedback, of the negative feedback, that was probably the only one that we got, which was, hey, some of these got a little long. And I don't know that, I think I would argue 9 minutes was not that long, but anyhow. So, but in general, it went really well. We're going to transition over to Dawn's section, where she's going to talk about branding and how she brands her Reitz alum.
Thank you. So yeah, Kat, thanks for doing all that. And Kat really worked hard to put together those graphs, taking things and sort of squishing them into this, half-hour session for us. So I appreciate that. And another shout out from me to Marianne and her team for really amazing stuff that they've done for us over the last couple of years. So in addition to the look and the feel, the tone that you saw in that really rough mashup of the video that we presented a few minutes ago, another way that I bring branding into this course is through this concept of the hashtag Reitz alum. So my career has spanned a few decades in higher education, and I have been blessed to work in student affairs and in academic affairs and residence life in many different areas. And because of that, I've created this entire, stable of former students that have worked with me, worked for me, and then have been parts of in my classroom over the last 12 years. And right before I came to Penn State Berks, I started this concept of Reitz alum. And I would reach out to students in email or social media, and I would welcome them to the alumni that is anybody that has participated in a course of mine or has been under my tutelage in one way or another. So I started doing this a little bit more formally after I came to Penn State Berks. I took a more active role in Twitter or LinkedIn and that kind of thing. At the end of each semester, I do something that is called the last lecture. And my last lecture is just a combination of an experience that we've had, putting closure on our time over the semester together, and then really just formally welcoming all my students in that particular class in that semester to the hashtag Reitz alum. alum. This year, because of our quarantine situation, I put together this fun little certificate for my students, and I sent out this certificate, and Wiki, one of my students, actually tweeted that, and I'm putting that in here as an example. So I've taken this this little branding thing, and what I do is I will reach out if I see some of my students that have been shouted out on Penn State Berks Twitter, or and you know, and for one way or another, or sometimes I will just make that happen. I will say something if I see them, whether they're an athlete or they've been awarded something in any research categories, they participated in a research conference. I will go ahead and I will make sure that I send them a note of appreciation and congratulations, and I also tweet it out as if I can, and provide that as an option. So here are just some examples of how I use the hashtag Reitz alum on Twitter. And then here are some of how I do it on LinkedIn as well. Many of my graduates want to take the opportunity, and I know this happens with Kat's students as well, to get some pictures of with us at graduation, and we try to incorporate that. And I use opportunities on LinkedIn, especially to call attention to things in the world of communication that and public speaking and these core skills that we learn in our class, to call attention to them in the hashtag Reitz alum hashtag, just because I think that it's an important way for me to still keep in touch with folks, and to just you know, continue to be engaged with folks once they've left the walls of our classroom. So looking ahead a little bit here at future implications, both Katherine and I are involved in different stages of TLI grants. Currently, right now, we are working with our CLT staff in different levels. I am a little bit further behind in mine just because of everything that has happened, and I know Kat is a little further along than where I am, but we are continuing to redo some of the videos and the content that we have been using in our courses. It is our goal over the next couple of semesters, hopefully, or maybe years, just depends, to completely rebrand and get the same feel, that look and feel with the little finger points and all of the different tone and that vibe that you're getting through the videos, through all of our content. And that's really what we're working towards and we're working through right now. We are so blessed, as I know so many of us are at the university in different levels, to have talented, enthusiastic, creative, clever people on our CLT staff, and we have all of these opportunities to learn about stuff from a technology perspective and how to incorporate that into our classrooms, which allows us to become better teachers and then engage with our students a little bit more. So let me see. I think we are at the point for questions, Kat. I don't know if you wanted to do any other little wrap up here.
No, I'm good. I think we've covered it. We're happy to have take any questions from you guys about branding or working with your TLT staff, or or the grant process. I know I believe every campus has the same granting process. I think.
Yeah, I don't even know. It's a good question.
I'm pretty sure they do. Anyhow, if anybody's got any questions about how we did this, please let us know.
And while we're waiting for some questions, one of the things that I think is really important is to just take a look at what your goals are and what you want to try to accomplish when you're working from one of these perspectives, because it gives you an opportunity to really think through your outcomes and how you want to get to those places.
We actually have a question about our videos.
Oh, yes, that's an excellent question. Thank you. And I will flip to the next slide. So here, in our last slide here, and we're going to post this. Sarah will do this for us. She will post a link to the PDF, and she's also going to post in the chat a link to gain access to our video playlist. We didn't want to necessarily make that available to everyone, but if you are interested, Sarah will post both the PDF and the link separately. And then that link will take you to a survey, an input form. And then what we'll do is we'll give that a day or so, and then we will take the video, that list, and then we will give everybody access to our video playlist that is interested in that.
I think there's only one other thing I'd probably like to say, is that when most students show up to college and they look and they say, oh, well, I have to take English and I got to take speech and I got to take math and I got to, okay. Well, probably the one thing that gives them the most heartburn is speech. Mm-hmm. And it's just that, you know, it's up there with spiders and snakes and heights. and we work super hard to just make it an extension of play, and feeling like they have other resources. And so that when we're back in the classroom or we're on Zoom, that we're facilitating in a way that is less lecture focused and more conversational, reviewing directions. You know, we're facilitators versus, you know, lectures of like, here's the language you have to use and here's paralanguage and blah blah blah, where we sort of take some of those nuts and bolts and put it into the video so that we can we can just play.
Yeah, and that's, you know, there are so many of us that teach F100 across the university, and we all come at it from such different, unique perspectives. And I think that there's some beauty in that. And what Kat and I are able to do is really take the content in our course and the anxiety-provoking opportunity for having to give speeches and really build this in a real-world perspective, because things they're learning in our class are so applicable to everything that they're doing in other classes, regardless of major. And it's really important for our students to know that. And both Kat and I really work hard to build these communities in our classroom. And by taking the opportunity through this branding perspective and our videos and all of the other stuff we do to flip the classroom, so we have more opportunity to have these experiences with our students when we're together is really a great experience. Someone just asked the question, can you describe how you did the flipped classroom with remote learning, especially getting the students to engage in the conversation? Yeah, I mean, we probably have different perspectives on that, and I will go first. So for me, when we made the pivot back in March, my class was about mostly done in terms of all of the content and the learning. At the end of the semester and everything that we had to do when we made remote was mostly workshops, some small learning experiences, and speeches. So what I did was I actually restructured my speech schedule. Instead of them giving their first big round of speeches the week after spring break, I pushed that back. And what that did was that compressed the two major speeches into a smaller amount of time. But what I did is I just worked with them in workshop, and I talked with them a little bit about what this whole situation of remote learning looked like. And I just helped them get comfortable with that part of it before they had to deal with, oh my gosh, I'm now giving speeches online. I didn't sign up for this. Part of the experience that I gave them was an actual bitch session. I know maybe I shouldn't say that here on a Zoom webinar, but we did that. We talked about, I let them complain. I let them complain about what they didn't like about it. I let them complain about what they were dealing with at home and how they had to manage that. And that really made all the difference, because by the time I gave them that first 2 weeks to just do a little bit of work and to talk and to get through some of their anxieties, additional anxieties about where we were with remote learning, really made a difference in the speeches. And I was pleasantly surprised with how the speeches did come out. I don't know if Kat had a different experience and she wants to offer that.
Yeah, so I had a very similar experience in that, well, the course in and of itself is very front loaded. I mean, you have to get a ton of information. You get about 75% of the course information out in probably by, I don't know, week 9 or 8 even, you know, so it ramps up like that. And then you're left with, you know, your speeches, and you're already building on the things that they've learned. So that is true. And I did the same thing. I let them kind of deal with it. And it was kind of, you know, we let them have their session where they just sort of, we checked in with them, and we also made sure that they had the right services for what they were dealing with. And as you all know, it was kind of fascinating to watch what some of these folks who went home to, what they went home to. But in terms of the course, I was a little disappointed in the quality of the speech giving, and that's all goes into the lesson learned bucket. I found that many of them just put up their screen and just kind of read their script, and they got docked for that. Now, moving forward, Dawn and I and one of our other colleagues, we're putting our heads together about how do we do speech delivery in the fall? Do we dare do it in person? Do we have just the 6 kids that come in and give their speeches? Do we have them do it, videotape it and upload for a day and have them have audience? You know, so we're still hashing that out, and I don't know that we're going to make a decision about that until it's probably going to be a game day decision, probably the week, you know, it's hard to predict what's going to happen in week 10 of the semester about, you know, when they're ready to give speeches. So we're going to flex the best way we can for the health and safety of our students and for us.
Yeah.
But we have options.
One of the second part of that question that I don't think I answered fully, but just an example. So the question was, especially, how do you engage? How do you get the students to engage in conversation? And we have a number of things that we use in both of our classrooms. A couple of years ago, I started something called the roll call response. And I actually got this from the Faculty Focus news letter like a gazillion years ago. Instead of calling roll and going over my list of students and saying, you know, Kat, and she says here, and Sarah, and she says here, I actually post a question on the board. And some of the questions are silly, like who's your favorite superhero? But some of the questions are involving content, and then I just mix it up. And I post that question on the board when they come into the classroom, or what I did was I posted a slide of that when they came into our Zoom room in the morning, you know, right before class started, and they had to think about it. And then when I went through attendance, I gave them the opportunity to answer the question. And that does a couple of things. For a speech teacher, that gives them an opportunity to actually talk out loud and think without realizing that they're doing that. And there's literally no stakes associated with that. So that's a really big piece of the puzzle. I don't share that part of it with them right away. I talk about that later in the semester, but it also gets them talking. I encourage them, but I don't require them unless it's a speech day to turn on their camera. So we get to talking about that and get to talking a little bit about what it means to be engaged in a Zoom space here. And then the other part of it is it helps me get to know them a little bit more, and our community gets to be put together through the roll call response questions also.
Right. We're also heavy users of the breakout rooms, and we also use peer mentors, which are students who have been in our classroom prior, and they kind of, you know, get blown away by, wow, this is speech, this is fun, which those two things aren't normally in the same sentence. And so we utilize those folks, and we do a lot of breakout discussion stuff and come back and they report out, and there's a lot of that going on. And the other thing is that I do something a little differently in my class at the end. Like most speech teachers leave persuasive for the last 2 weeks, which sort of puts freshmen in a sense of panic while they're trying to figure out what they have to study for final exams. I actually do a piece where they have to do it's very appropriate now, where they do an interview. It used to be a panel interview in the classroom, and now they have a panel interview in Zoom, which is totally appropriate to what's going on and how they're going to be interviewing in the future. So they have to do an elevator pitch, and then I put a faux job description up there, and the panel interviews them, and they have to go through that. So again, public speaking, but it's something that's very useful for their current situation.
Yeah, we really come from a perspective, I think both Kat and I, from our backgrounds, we don't come from a traditional platform oratory for our public speaking classroom. We incorporate all of those elements and all of the important parts of that you would think of in a traditional public speaking course. And we just build it in such a different way that it is so real world and applicable to what's going on for them today. I know we have about 4 minutes left. Is there anything else that we can answer for anyone? Share, and I know Sarah did post the list or our PDF for the PowerPoint, and also the link to the playlist. Oh, and there's my house phone ringing. Sorry about that. And we do encourage anybody that would like to connect with us on social media. We've posted our stuff here for you to do that. Note to self, turn your house phone off.
Yeah.
That thing.
I'm not sure if we may answered all of Marcus's questions. So Marcus asked, oh, excuse me, I think that was for the prior one. Sorry.
Yeah, that was the prior one.
The
Yep.
prior one. Okay, cool.
Awesome.
Anyhow,
Well,
I think we're good.
Thank you. Thank you. We thank you all for, oh, there's something just did pop in. Let's see. Oh, thank you. Thanks, Larkin. We thank you all that were supposed to join us back in June and then made the choice to come back and see us today. And we really are, we are both open books, and we really want to engage with folks. So please feel free, reach out, let us know how we can help and engage and support each other, especially in light of all of the uncertainty that we're dealing with. So our best wishes to each and every one of you as you're managing the rest of your summer, and we're all looking into the fall. Thank you.
Super. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Don and Catherine, for sharing ways to creatively use technology to engage students in your hybrid courses. So we have a second round of Penn State trivia for our audience members. Let me launch that poll. There are two questions. Who is the only person that was allowed to mix flavors at the creamery? And the second is the skeleton of Old Coley, a mule that was Penn State's first unofficial mascot, is on display in what building at University Park campus? So we'll give everyone 20 or 30 seconds to answer that while our next group gets ready. And I'm going to go ahead and share the results. So Bill Clinton was the only person when he visited as president that was able to mix flavors at the creamery. And the second question, the majority also got it correct. Old Coley, you can find him at